Equal to this computer. Okay, hello everyone. This is the dive jump where we jump into diving. Mr. Hammer, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Okay, so we talked about something last time. This week we're going to talk about something else. The topic of today, and by the way, Gal basically has no idea what I'm about to say, so he's kind of coming to this fresh. The topic of today is you are a diver. Now what? There are four paths that we think we want to talk about. Let's talk about the first one together. I think the easiest one to do is basically to talk about the instructor side, so all of the instructional ones, and then we're going to talk about the technical stuff, and then we'll talk about other stuff, okay? But the two big ones, let's talk about those. So, Jalal, you got yourself a advanced open water. Maybe you did nitrox, you did a deep dive or something like that. What's my path to becoming an instructor? I want to be able to walk around in Speedo, and hit on all the cute girls on the beach.
I think it's
And
not in the fashion now to go full speedo.
oh, what's the fashion now?
It's
Sorry.
your time. This is like 25 years ago you walk full speedo.
I
And
wear
like
tights now.
surfer, it is more comfortable, than speedo.
Yeah.
But I don't want to ruin speedo sales of speedo for dive instructors.
So how do you become a dive instructor if you're an advanced open water diver or, like what's the path that you think
Well,
works for most people?
you finished your advanced open water and you looked at your instructor and you saw God. You say, I want to be God. And then you need to decide what is your path. Your simple path is to do dive master. On the way to the dive master, you need to do specialties. Usually, people doing navigation, they're doing buoyancy. It depends where you live in the world, but you can go for a dry suit. But you want to make yourself a better diver with better skills in the water. And the most important thing is to do the whoa, the
Rescue diver,
what's
I
that?
think, is the first one,
Rescue diving. Yes,
right?
rescue
That's the
diving.
first one. I think it's a requirement. I don't have it up in front of me exactly, but I looked at it the other day. PADI, SSI, NAUI, and CMAS all require, I don't know how RAID works or like GUE or those other ones, but to become an instructor, you need to be a dive master. To be a dive master, you need to have the rescue for all of them. You need to have, here I have it now. You need to have rescue, you need to have O2, which is part of the rescue for a lot of people. And some people do the dive master as a single course. So basically, you show up, you do 10 days of a dive master, and then you just have to do your internships, which is like the stage, right? And then some
Mm-hmm.
places do it where it's a program where it's like a month or two, where you basically work at the dive shop and you're called a dive master trainee. I'm sorry, I'm just reading from the other page here. And that usually sets you up for, so before you become an instructor, you have to do the assistant instructor, which in PADI is called the IDC, Instructor Development Course. In SSI, it's just called the Assistant Instructor Course. Um, now we has the same thing. It's an assistant instructor. Assistant instructor is what happens when you finish your instructor class, which doesn't actually teach you how to dive. It just teaches you how to be I guess it just teaches you how to be an instructor. But um, it allows you to start your internships, and then you need to do two internships. One as a observer to another instructor, and one as an instructor where the instructor is like an actual instructor is observing you giving the class. So
Yeah,
that's
so
that's the
just
path to open water
let,
instructor.
let's go back quickly to the dive master. For
Yeah.
dive master, before you do the course of dive master, which is the course that you get theory of the most big chunk of knowledge about diver. When you become dive master, you become much, much better diver for dive master, you have to be a rescue diver, you have to do a depth specialty, and then another two specialties or three specialties for that you choose. And after you did this 8 or 10 days course, you become a very good diver. You can already take groups of certified divers for dives, uh, get paid as somebody that lead the dives underwater, like guided dives. And when you want to be an instructor, you go to assistant instructor. And basically, when you are certified as an assistant instructor, you can help in a course. You can help the instructor in a course. You can take
I
groups for
I
the
think I
water.
think you can do as a dive master, you can add two people to an open water course. So if the instructor can do six, you make it eight, depending on the agency that you're in. And I think so. I'm reading, like, for example, for CMAS, for example, they have an open water diver. An open water diver is not allowed to dive with another open water diver. They need an advanced open water diver on the dive. A dive master, so one advanced open water diver can take an open water diver, which is okay. I guess they're like so one of them can be a buddy and the other one can actually like do a dive. But a dive master can take two open water divers with him on a regular dive. So I mean, it's agency dependent on like what privileges you get at the end of it. But as you said, you're correct in that by the time you graduate from a dive master class, you are supposed to be a good diver. The reality is, I gotta say, in my experience, some of the dive masters are not very good divers, even though they're certified dive masters. They're not very good dive leaders either. But I
But
think
think how
that's
bad they were. Think how bad they were
yeah,
as
yeah, yeah.
open water diver. If they
Look,
didn't
look,
do the
it,
master diver, the dive master, and we didn't talk about
I
master
agree. I
divers.
agree. No, no. Master diver is
Intermediate.
something you don't have to do a
Just
master diver on the way to dive master.
yeah, you don't.
No, you can just jump directly to dive master. But look, I we talk. It's right. You're correct. We talk like two, very advanced instructors who have like done dive master courses for people who we look at something and we see like all the mistakes where in reality they're not that big of a deal. I know. I agree that we are the exception. We are outside of the normal. You're supposed to be a really good diver by the time you finish dive master, and then the instructor courses are all about being an instructor. It's more like following the procedures and understanding the standards and understanding like legal stuff, marketing, like what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. I've seen that in a lot of places, dive masters don't really get jobs. It's really get hard to get hired as a dive master. Most places would rather hire someone who's already an instructor who can also do guided dives, but do the more lucrative open water dives, open water diver courses. So I think the dive master used to be more of a job. Now I think it's just something you do on the way to instructor. I'm not sure though.
Well, I don't know where you're talking about because there are some places in the world that most of the guided people will be dive masters and they will have only one or two instructors. If you're talking about Israel, everybody are instructors.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
No, I'm talking about I'm
never
talking
see
about
dive
Caribbean.
masters.
In many places in the Caribbean, if you look at dive jobs in general, you'll see that most people are looking for an instructor, and most places in the Caribbean, they're looking for an instructor that has boat handling experience, because that's 90% of the dives in the Caribbean is, you're doing something on a boat.
Back in the day when I was in dive centers in Belize, in Mexico, in Colombia, I've seen a lot of dive masters working in
Yep. Look,
some
20 years ago, you know this. 20 years ago, I got hired as a dive master in Israel. It was
yeah.
just it was just easier. I think 20 years ago
I
it was
think
just
it was
easier.
30 years ago, but okay.
Well, is it 30 already? A little bit, right? 30 years ago, almost. Um, so path one is to go the instructor route. So that's basically you're saying the level that you're being is open water or advanced open water diver in terms of like how deep you go and no decompression, um, and you're basically doing open water dives, right? Single tank. probably on your back, probably a jacket style BCD. Although nowadays more back plates and back inflation BCDs are, but you're not teaching long hose. You're not teaching two tanks in any configuration like side mount or twin set. You're not doing. So for that, we are talking about. So this is another path. So if you're a diver and you don't really care about becoming an instructor, like teaching people or working in the business as, you know, a dive instructor, you can start going the technical route. Um, I think the first step, the technical is nitrox, right? You need to have nitrox for any of these.
Definitely. I think that every open water, advanced open water should do the nitrox today because it's the right way to dive.
Uh,
But
no,
I,
sorry, I gotta tell you. I gotta tell you. Where have you been anywhere in the world that actually has nitrox available?
a lot of places have nitrox available, but I agree that even me, when I go
It's
diving
mostly air.
somewhere in the world, I'll take air. But if I go on a liverboard and I'm going to do a lot of dives every day and they're going to be deep, I would prefer to take a liverboard with nitrox and ask for nitrox dives every day, all day.
Asia,
Whenever I come 20 meters
most
deep, 60 feet, I will go with
most
nitrox.
tourist divers, what we like to call schmucknickel divers, right? Most open water divers will come, will do the two tank dive in the morning. It's going to be 40 to 60 feet. It's going to be on air, and and there's not going to be any decompression. It's going to be 40 minutes to an hour each time in the water. You don't really need the nitrox. I agree with you that in my opinion, everyone should have nitrox. At this point, it's if you're going to continue in diving, you kind of have to have it. I know that for instructor, by the way, to be an instructor or a dive master, you don't really need nitrox. You can you can do
Because you do a lot of dives
yeah,
for
yeah,
10 feet. But again, I have to recommend nitrox seriously. I
yes, I
don't
agree.
think that we can allow ourselves to say you don't need nitrox. You do need nitrox. You should look for nitrox. You should prefer every dive that you're going over 60 feet or 20 meters, take nitrox with you because if you're not an experienced diver and you have some kind of a mistake in the water and you get into a situation that is close to an
It is
accident,
much more forgiving to have nitrox than not have nitrox. I agree.
you you
So
will
so let's say
you will get well
let's say I did
out of it.
nitrox. I did nitrox. It doesn't mean I'm a better diver, right? I could
No,
still
it's not.
be
You
basically
can be a
advanced.
bad diver and survive if you have nitrox.
Let's say I'm a kind of, I'm the same kind of level of diver, so I didn't actually learn how to dive better. So I mean, I can just keep diving, and hope to get some skills, or I can advance. And I think the next one, so there's, depending on the agency, and again, I looked this up before we started. So some agencies can go from nitrox, they have something called advanced nitrox. So, which is, eh, eh, there's like up to 40%, less than 40%, something like that. And then, but the thing is that there's advanced nitrox and then there's technical. And technical, some people call it ANDP, advanced nitrox decompression procedures. And I'm reading right off the page. And then some agencies just call it like, so PADI calls it Tech 40. And then those like intro to tech, they have something called like twin set something, but it's Tech 40 and then it keeps going to Tech 50, Tech 60, blah, 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 and so on and so on. And then it goes, just continues there. Some people call those Tech 50 and Tech 60, they just call it extended range. And there's limits to each one of these steps. So I think the first one, kind of like with the dive master, the first technical course is the bulk of what you're learning. You learn long hose, you learn twin set or side mount, you learn two tanks, you learn
In
multiple,
theory, you learn about oxygen
all the
seriously. You
theory.
learn about all these things in the water, like the compression and all the nitrogen problems, and you learn seriously theoretical stuff about diving
Let me say
when you
something
do
and tell me if you agree. I'm going to say something that I think this is an argument that you and I have had before, but I want to see what you say on camera, right? So, in my opinion, beginner diving, the low level of diving is learned in the water. You need to dive, you need to learn the water. The higher the level, the more you need to learn in the classroom. Physics, physiology, decompression theory, gear, equipment, maintenance, and gear assembly, gear checks, handling gear underwater, working with a reel. Um, I, I I did more work with technical divers outside the water than I do inside the water. And we go to maybe most of the water stuff that I do is at 2 to 8 meters, because that's where the buoyancy is the hardest. 2 to 8 meters, and most of the work. I mean, and I've done a lot of work. You know how I used to take people in the parking lot with the reels and
Yeah,
have them do it like blind with reels to learn how to keep the reel tight and entanglements and things like that, and how to do just how to clip a deco or stage bottle onto you or back. I do a lot of that outside of the water before we even go in the water.
yeah, definitely. You get certified by going deep. But if you have a serious instructor, you work a lot in the classroom, you work a lot outside on the beach, and then when you go into the water, you are very skilled and you can deal with all these uh, challenges that you will have in a deep dive. Because when you go into 40, 50 meters deep and you have a problem, it's the same like you go the first time into the water as an open water diver and you get water in your mask. It has to be a non-issue. You have to get all the challenges easy solution for you, and it have to be with a lot of experience, with a lot of training, like you say, with the reel or whatever. So you will not be in a big problem when you are in 50 meters deep.
And remember, there's no rule. Not PADI, not SSI. I checked this. Not NAUI, not CMAS. None of the agencies have a rule about an advanced open water diver putting a pony bottle right here and diving with it. There's no rule about it. You don't even need nitrox. Let's say you have two air tanks. You can put one tank on your back and one tank up front. There's no rule about you can put a long hose in your advanced open water class. You can learn it with long hose. You can have a back plate BCD right from the beginning, and you can have, as an advanced open water diver, you can put a twin set on your back, and no one can tell you not to, with a reel and a pony bottle, and no one can tell you not to. You can practice all of these things without actually getting certified as a
Of
technical
course.
diver. So here's one more question. So we know that we go from nitrox. I have one more question. We go from nitrox, we go to some kind of advanced nitrox or extended range or something like that. We do the technical. The last one, the terminal one, like the end, is what?
Well, you have also some kind of two routes that you can go because you can go to the trimix and you add helium, and you can actually go to unlimited depth. Uh, Theoretically, it's not easy to go to 300 meters like it's easy to go to 100 meters deep, but it's possible.
What is
And
deep?
this
When
is
you say
scuba
the word
diving.
deep, hold on. When you say the word deep dive, what do you mean by deep?
Well, over 100 feet is serious depth. It's not like recreational diving. It's not sports
100
dive.
feet or 100 meters?
100 feet.
So
When
30
I
meters.
go over 33 meters,
Yeah.
we're talking about if you take air, you can already get high from the nitrogen. And nitrogen narcosis is a serious thing for somebody who's not experienced. And even if somebody is experienced and is, you know, when if you're a diver, you know that it's changed. You can have nitrogen narcosis today at 35 meters deep, and tomorrow at 28 meters deep because you drank alcohol last night or you didn't eat anything
Or more
today or whatever.
exertion, or it's a
Cooler
second dive of the
water,
day if you're
whatever. Many
absolutely.
uh,
If you
things that
so okay, so if you
factors. Yes.
I read about this, and I anticipated. So all of the agencies agree, regardless of like the least conservative agency agrees that 50 meters and beyond should be on trimix. everyone.
Well, you and I had wildlife from younger days of us,
We were young and
but
stupid once.
definitely, yeah, definitely not. And I still don't believe that you have to have helium for 50 meters,
That's
but a
what
lot of
that's
people
what all of them
believe
say.
in it.
There's an older CMAS. So the CMAS in the 90s, when I did Dive Master and CMAS in the 90s, in the late 90s, you were allowed to go to 60 meters on air. Okay,
And you
that's what
survive. Most of them survive.
they changed the rules. Since then, they've changed the rules, and now it's 50 meters is the deepest that anyone does, and it's on nitrox. It's not air anymore; it's nitrox. But let's say, so look, so we can agree that between 30 to 50 meters, it's probably a good idea to have nitrox and maybe even start adding helium. Anything beyond 50, most people nowadays, most people who are supposed to do this for fun. Look, if I'm getting paid and you need me to go to 50 meters and it's on air, I'll do it on air, if all I have is air. But if this is a planned dive for fun, practically all the agencies are saying that, look, GUE says you have to start it at like 35, start adding helium.
Yeah.
But again, look,
Very good, you know. It's expensive, but it's
it's
very
very,
good.
yes,
If you
very
take
expensive.
helium with you and you know what you're doing, so it will make your safety stop shorter. You will not have nitrogen or causes. You will not be high underwater, and it's
And
the
you can
right way
stay
to
there
go.
longer. You
Everybody's
can
saying
stay
that
there
because it's the right
longer.
way to do it.
It's the right way to
Yeah,
do it. I agree with you on all of this. You can go deeper without, like, look, even now, when we're pretty experienced at this stupid, doing stupid things, if I, you know, going down to 60 on air is like, okay, look, we can do it, but, you know, you got to be super careful. And the 70 on air we would probably both of
no.
us say like, yeah, you know what, let's not do that. We look, once you have the certification for trimix, if trimix is available, you just do it on trimix. Why would you do it on anything else? Right?
Well, there is the other route that we
Ah,
also
good.
talked about.
Number three. What's the other route?
Yes, so the trimix that we talked about is scuba diving. And
Yes.
what we know today and many years, and like at least 30 years back, that if you take a rebreather with you,
Good.
basically you don't waste helium that is very expensive because
This
you
is the
can
third.
breathe it again and again.
So
And
this is the
then you
third
have,
path to go. So
yeah, the third
let's.
path to go is to get the rebreather, and then it's very correct if you can go even to 30 meters or 40 meters with helium, it's
So
fine
there's an
because you
argument.
have the
There's an
method.
argument here. So number one, the breathers are very expensive upfront, and they're very
Yeah,
expensive to operate compared to open water scuba because you need to buy the sorb, you need to buy oxygen sensors practically every year, sometimes twice a year, and then you need to buy which are I think they cost like $100 each, and then it also has two regulators that you still have to maintain, just like regular diving. So I mean the cost is relatively high. So we'll
but
put
the
that up front.
gases are cheaper, and
Only the helium, only when you're talking about helium,
but
right?
we talked about what is my path, and my path was Trimix or rebreather with Trimix or
Yeah,
helium.
yeah. So once you get to
And
the
this is
technical diving, once you are getting beyond the 50-meter technical diving, where you have to start adding helium, CCRs, closed circuit rebreathers, as opposed to open water scuba, OC is what a lot of people call it, which is open circuit. Um, I think that CCR makes a lot more sense if you're doing more than 10 deep dives a year. And by deep, I mean you're going beyond 80 meters. Um,
okay.
if you're going beyond 80 meters more than 10 times a year, CCR starts because it's $500 on your back every single time. And it doesn't come back. It's like $3, $3. It's like every time you see the money just flowing,
I
you know,
can't imagine myself buying helium to throw it out in my bubbles
it's it's
today.
it's like it's like throwing money into the water, and it's really, so the cost, it's about $10,000 to buy the unit plus another $2,000 to buy the training, and then about $1,000 a year to just keep the unit maintained. That includes the regulators, the sorb, the computers, the everything. But let's say that all of that you're willing to do, and you know you're going to do more than 10 deep dives a year on to 80 meters, then basically, even if you're doing a 20-meter dive, you just put the unit on. I mean,
Yeah,
you just never dive open water, open circuit anymore. That's it. You're just a CCR diver, period. At most, you will
yeah,
take a bailout gas with you. So if you are diving with a buddy who's open circuit, you can give them your bailout or you can bail out from the system onto like a regular tank so that at least you have something for the ascent. It makes sense for liveaboards. It makes sense for because in the liveaboard you just bring the unit with you and you don't have to worry about nitrox, mixes, anything. You have trimix diluent, you have oxygen, it goes on the system, and you just, you can breathe, I don't know, 8 hours, I think, on 2.5 kilograms. What is it?
you have
Something like 8 hours, 6 hours.
you have very little problems with how long you be in the water when you have a vibrator.
You don't even think about your air consumption rate anymore.
Yeah,
You just
and
don't think about it.
you breathe really nicer air. You breathe less dry air. You get cold less because you breathe air that is warm.
Especially
It,
with helium that makes you colder. It works
yeah,
well with a dry suit. It basically just is a backpack. Most of the units nowadays are backpacks. There are some chest mount rebreathers that are, they look a little bit easier to operate if you're just getting into it. But I mean, I don't have an opinion about them. I know that the really, really, really big dives, the top 1% of the 1% of divers, they now are starting to do double rebreathers. So instead of having a rebreather and open circuit bailout, they have a rebreather and rebreather bailout. They bail out to the other rebreather, which is
okay.
again, so that's the future. And in my opinion, if you're planning even a single dive beyond 120 meters, that's kind of the limit that I set to myself. If you're doing up to anything beyond 120 meters, even if you're doing one dive a year, it's time to go rebreather. That's it. 150, 130, 122. It's time to go rebreather. At up until 120, so 110 meters, you're doing it once or twice a year. What's the name of that boat in Israel that is like at 106? There's something,
Okay.
yeah, Ophira?
What? Maybe in the last year.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's something at 100 something
I
meters.
don't know. I don't know if it's 100 meters, but I believe it.
So let's say you're doing that once a year, twice a year, it's okay. You can just pay the money, stay on the open circuit. It's cheaper, easier. You're probably just more polished on it anyways. You're more current on technical diving that way. I think it makes more sense to just, basically stay on open circuit like you're used to. But if you're going to do it, you're going to start doing dives to more than 120 meters and not just a demonstration to show that you can. There's a guy in Turkey who does that. He says he does 150 meters on open circuit just to show that it's still possible. Just to show it's still possible. You see, you can still do it that way, but no one does it anymore.
If it makes him happy
No, it's a
or whatever.
demonstration. It's for equipment demonstration. He does equipment tests for it and things like that. The last one. Uh, so most people are not going to do this. This is less than 1% of 1% of people, commercial diving. And I looked at it. There are two big agencies. They're called ADCI, which is American Association of something commercial diving. And then there's the HSE, which is like their OSHA, like health and safety requirement, something in the UK. So it's the US and the UK are very big in this. And I don't really care which agency you're talking about. There are two types of commercial diving, inshore and offshore. Inshore commercial diving can be anything from polishing propellers to doing hull inspections, like with video cameras, to doing recovery of, someone lost a boat, lost a jet ski or something, like anything from like 2 meters. Like, look, you put your booties on, you get paid, right? It doesn't matter if it's 2 meters, 20 meters, 50 meters. We have friends who dive inside of water tanks, like those big water towers. It's just easier to clean it from the inside rather than having to, I guess.
The water out.
Yeah, I guess that's what you would do, right? You would take the water out and then clean it like dry.
Yeah.
So we know all of this. Then there's the other side, which is the offshore. Offshore is what you see in the movies with the guys who go into a decompression chamber or recompression chamber, and then they sit in the chamber for a week or two or a month. Usually it's 28 days. And then they breathe from helmets, from a bell, and they're the ones who work, big oil rigs and inspections and things like that, right? And there's two types of inshore diving. You can either do it on scuba, which is normal, or you can do it on helmet. And there's two types of helmet. You can do helmet on scuba, and you can do helmet with the umbilical. Now, that's all I know about this. You know a lot more about this. Why don't you tell us?
Well, I'm not an offshore diver.
You're
I
inshore.
think that I'm an inshore diver. I think that the offshore diver is something that you should start when you are young. You know, if you're 20 years old and you want to be an offshore diver and you think about a career in that, I recommend it. If you're skilled in it and you have the talent, you will enjoy it a lot. Up to get to this point that you are סולל רוויה,
Is what?
סולל רוויה, how do you say?
Saturation diver, sat diving.
Saturation diver. I have words that I'm losing in English sometimes. So when you become saturation diver, you get into a bell to a month or even 5 weeks, and you just live inside a bell. They can take you on the boat
Yeah.
if it's rough in the water, but you will stay in the pressure of the depth that you work in. That could be even 200 meters. And after you finish the job, you get into the water to 200 meters, then you go out work, go back to the bell, you're in the same environment in pressure, and you eat there, you sleep there, you live your life there, and
And
then
the
you go out.
decompression is controlled by the bell operators outside. There's a technician, a hyperbaric technician, and what they do is they basically relieve the pressure slowly. It takes about 4 days, 5 days, because you're already at saturation. There's no longer,
Yeah,
it's not going to be a longer decompression schedule
yeah.
regardless.
In inshore and in offshore, the diver is a rock star. There is a lot of crew around him that work hard for him to do
Yes.
the job.
And I
Okay,
prefer to be on the deck. By the way, for the umbilical, I prefer to be on the deck than to be the diver. And the thing is, between the two of us, I think you prefer to be in the water, right? You want to work.
I always prefer to be in the water, and
And
I really love to make money.
and I think you
So
prefer that I would be on the outside because I'm very
yes,
technical
keep
and
it
I'm
safe,
very,
keep it safe.
yeah.
It's when you are a diver in the water, in offshore and in inshore, you have supervisor above you. You have people that tenders that hold the umbilicals and people that take care of you in all kind of things. You have safety diver that's ready to jump to help you in case of an emergency. And you need to these
And,
people. You need to know them and to trust them
and they even talk
because
to you and they listen to how you breathe and they remind
you
you.
are you are in the water with a camera that everything you see, the people on the screen on the surface can see. They can talk to you. They can hear all the time. You're not touching anything to talk. You're talking and breathing, and they hear everything. And when they want to talk, they need to press the button, talk to you, and then when they leave it, they already hear you answer them. So they see, they can open a flashlight for you. You tell them, I want light, you get light. And close the light, close the light. In some places that it's very cold, you can get warm water into your suit. There is, you know, to make this job work, you need to have all kind of assistance from the surface.
Yes.
The minimum crew, even in inshore, even if you work at 5 meters deep, the minimum crew will
If you
be
have,
four
as
people.
soon as you have an umbilical, as soon as you have an umbilical, you need a crew. You can do, so I've done a lot, I've done some inshore, where I went on scuba and I did dives on my own. Um, an anchor fell off a boat. Um, the boat has to go because it cost them a lot of money to stay in port. The insurance company asks you to go bring up the anchor. I went down with, what was it, nine tanks or 12
Nine tanks.
tanks? So 10, right? It was like went down with 10 tanks in
It's not,
like this.
you're not telling a good story here. It's not inshore. It's irresponsible dive.
Irresponsible diving. That's correct. That's
But
correct.
this is not inshore. Inshore is you put a helmet on you. You have umbilical. You are not limited with the gas. You are not limited with the communication. This is a serious job. What you're talking about doing scuba in inshore should be only survey. Going into the water, taking a video, and it's better if you do it with a helmet as well. But if you have to do something in scuba and inshore, should be survey or something to check underwater for
Polishing
I don't
professors,
think doing that.
polishing propellers and doing barnacles. I mean, I used to make money, going to the marina and just doing barnacles,
Even
you know.
that I prefer to have a full face and get the gas from above, like you call it.
I did it on scuba and then you smelled like barnacles for a week. But who cares? So what?
You don't do inshore
Mr.
work, you
Hammer, I
don't
want to
have
thank you so much today. This was great. I think the shorter format works better for us anyways. We like the shorter format because you have a kid. I have a dog right here, like waiting for me to
okay.
take her out. Thank you so much.
So we keep
We will
talking
post
about it.
this and let's we'll see everyone here next week. I hope you guys like this. Bye.
Bye.
כפרה. תודה רבה.
יצאנו מהזה, מהרקורד, עדיין רקורד.